So what we're talking about today, I'm going to start by asking you if you've ever encountered a need that felt too big for you. And so the answer for all of us is yes, right? Like if you live in this world and you're compassionate at all, you have run into things where you're like, that is a need that is too big for me to handle. And so just like a little bit of research in Newcastle County, right? 500 kids in foster care in Newcastle County, 16,000 houses where grandparents are raising their kids. They don't get necessarily listed as foster care, but their parents are not in the picture anymore. We've got, so we have a couple nonprofits that we work with in our church, Fosterwell, 1 and 7B, Good Neighbors specifically. And if you're new to City Light, our vision is to seek, love, and care for people like Jesus does. And each of those words, seek, love, and care, is specific to what we do. The care, so we care for people, means that we're going to partner with nonprofits to help people who are in need in our community. That is part of our vision. It's part of why we started the church almost 8 years ago now, is that we want to be a church who helps people find Jesus and connects our faith to practical means. We believe that the church is supposed to be a city set on a hill, a light in the darkness, right? City Light, that we're supposed to be a place where people who are hurting, who are going through hard times, can find hope, can find help. And so these statistics matter to us and to our mission, right? We often talk about if we cease to exist as a church, would our neighborhood even miss us? Would they even notice? We want to be a church where the people who aren't Christians in our neighborhood know that we exist. And so hunger, right? In Newcastle County, roughly 1 in 8 people. That's crazy, right? Like look around in this room and like that'd be like one person. These are rows of 7 right here, right? One person per row. I mean, that's just real numbers to think about, right? And a lot of them are children. Nearly 1 in 5 face food insecurity, which is defined as having to skip a meal, reducing meal sizes, eating lower quality food, running out of food before you can afford to get more. And this is just kind of looking at Newcastle County, right? Homelessness, 700 to 800 homeless individuals. Why it says likely in Newcastle County is because they have a number for all of Delaware, and then they know the percentages. Most of them are in Newcastle County, and so that's kind of a rough estimate. 26% of them are under 18. 20% of the homeless households include children. So they're right. These are just a few examples where I read these, and what they are is they're statistics that keep it impersonal, right? So they're so big that I don't think I could really make a difference. I kind of find like we go two ways. Right? Like, so we're like, that is so big and I am so small, I can't affect it. And then when you're confronted with an individual, has this ever happened to you? You're like, well, if I help this one individual, it's not going to really matter anyway, because it's just one individual. So we kind of argue ourselves out of it on both sides. It's too big and it's too small, right? So what we want to talk about today is something that's really, in my opinion, I guess that's my opinion, but I think the Bible, like the New Testament, like the teachings of Jesus, it is baked in. If I were to boil down the teachings of Jesus, if you forced me to boil it down, caring for the poor would be in the very top of things that Jesus talked about. He centered the marginalized people all the time in his ministry. He was constantly talking to, spending time with, caring for people who were outcasts of his society, like lepers, right? Lepers weren't even allowed to live in the city. He was caring for the poor. He was caring for the sick. He was often spending time with people who were ceremonially unclean, and so all that meant was that they couldn't be around everyone else, because if you touched someone who was ceremonially unclean, then you became unclean, and then you couldn't go to church until you did all this stuff. Right? And Jesus was constantly working on the margins of society. He was with the people who were poor. And then he turned stuff upside down all the time, right? Like if you're familiar with the Bible, you've heard this. Even if you're not, maybe you've heard it. But he does this. There's a thing that we call the Beatitudes, where he's like, blessed are. He starts to list. He's like, hey, let's talk about people whose lives are great. Blessed are. Like that, the Greek word there for, it's not like I'm saying that I'm going to bless you. It's more like saying, that is blessed. Your life is blessed if you are. And then he elevates the people that no one would think he was going to say. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. So, I think Jesus' primary mission, right, is to defeat sin, Satan, and death, and to offer salvation to all who would receive it by his death, resurrection, and ascension. And also, he was preaching the kingdom of God to come on earth as it is in heaven. And that is not just a spiritual reality, it is a physical reality. And so I want to talk about that, and I think this is a story where he models it, okay? So we're going to jump into Mark. And I know we've been mostly in Matthew, but I said a couple times we'll jump to some of the other Gospels. If you're new to the Bible, if you've never read the Bible, if you've never been to church, that is great. I'm so glad you're here. You don't have to have a Bible degree to understand what we're talking about, right? This book, Mark, is one of the 4 accounts of the life of Jesus. And, you know, maybe you've heard of Peter, like he's a pretty famous follower of Jesus. Mark was Peter's disciple and would work with him and learn from him and wrote this book from things he learned from him. So we have like eyewitness accounts of the life of Jesus. So here's this thing. I'm going to set it up with this here, kind of before we get to the feeding of the 5,000. He says, the apostles gathered around Jesus, reported to him all they had done and taught. So what we see happening is Jesus' 12 disciples had gone on a ministry trip without him, and they had preached and healed the sick. And then they're coming back and they're like, Jesus, it worked. God worked through us, and you weren't even there. And then because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, Jesus said, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. So they're about to try to get away from the crowds. So they got into a boat, and they sailed to a solitary place, okay? Now, also, if we just hop to one of the other eyewitness accounts, so we talk about Matthew as another account, there's something else going on in the background. So John the Baptist, who is a cousin of Jesus and obviously like very popular and very famous at that time and close to Jesus, he was beheaded right around this time by Herod. So John's disciples came and took his body and buried it, and then they went and told Jesus. Then Jesus heard about what happened. He withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. So you kind of put the accounts together. Jesus has just gotten good news and bad news. His disciples come back. They're excited. He's just found out that his cousin's been killed. So it's interesting because he's like, we need some time alone. There's a whole teaching in that, right? Like that Jesus needs time alone, and that he values time alone, that you need a break from ministry sometimes, that you need a break from giving to others, that it's okay to grieve and mourn, okay? But that's not the teaching for today. I just want to set you up, like, what's Jesus going through? So they get in a boat, okay? And it says, but many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot around all the towns and got there ahead of them. I'm going to try to do something that I've never done before right now. You ready? I'm going to do a backflip. Here we go. No. I've never done that either, which I think is wise at this point in my life. I just, I research and I do stuff and I learn things. I found this incredibly cool video. It's a half-hour long about the topography in the area where the feeding of the 5,000 happened. I took that half hour and I spliced it into a minute and a half. And I've tried to memorize it, and I'm going to narrate it to you. This could go very badly. All right, you ready? Okay, here we go. So this is made by some group, I forget what they're called now, but they give tours in the Holy Land. It might be called Holy Land Ministries or something. All right, you ready? Here we go. So that's the Sea of Galilee aerial shot. All right, we're going to zoom in. That's the dude, okay? And he's going to point out, here we go. Oh, he's not about to. So see where he's standing is on the right, and the left is where they think the feeding of the 5,000 happened, which would be right in front of him. So he's kind of on a hill right here, which is maybe where Jesus went to after the feeding of the 5,000. If you remember, he walked up on a hill to pray. But that flat area, that beach would be where they landed, and all this area here is desolate area, okay? So the cities are on the left where Capernaum is, and there's no one over there, right? So they sailed to a solitary place. They went to get away from all the cities, okay, to spend some time alone. And this is a side note. The winds go left to right, and that's where they sailed afterwards when they had the storm. And if you look right there, that's the way Jesus would have walked across the water. Bonus, not about this teaching. Okay, so here we go. They sailed. Here comes the dotted line eventually. Come on, dotted line. Here it comes. All right, so that's the boat. Here they come. They're sailing. And I want you to see, because I never understood this, how it was possible that the people saw him in the boat, but he wasn't that far away. And they come around. Is there a red line? Okay, that's them walking. And as that's 5 or 6 miles, you can see the shoreline, what it looked like. they could see the boat out there 5 or 6 miles. And if they started over on the Capernaum side, they went through multiple towns on their way. So they would have been gathering people along and got to that flat plain. And I paused here because that's our tour guide. And what he's saying right now, if you could hear him, is he's saying, look, you could see a boat out there, right? That's literally what he's saying. Couldn't you see a boat? Isn't that cool? Come on, guys. All right. I always wondered, like you read things in the Bible, you're like, how did they beat him by running around? Like, I think the Sea of Galilee is clearly bigger than it actually is. But yeah, so he sailed across and they saw it and they gathered momentum. The crowd got bigger and bigger and bigger. So when he lands, there's multiple thousands of people there. 5,000 men is what we'll hear at the end, which probably means 10 to 20,000 people. So when Jesus landed, and now you can all picture where he landed, can't you? The Bible coming to life. Okay. See, it's one of those things. There's things where I'm like, I think this is cool, and there's a 10% chance anyone else will think it's cool. There's going to be like 2 of you who email me and be like, this is the best thing ever. You got to do more of it. And everyone else is like, I don't know why he should that. Okay. So when Jesus landed, he saw a large crowd. And so remember, Jesus, he's grieving. He's tired. The disciples are tired. What would be your instinct if you showed up and there was thousands of people who would beat you on foot to the solitary place that you were trying to get away from them? I'm sure you all would have compassion on them, wouldn't you? Because you're all good people, right? So he had compassion on them because they were like a sheep without a shepherd. So he pulls up and he starts to teach them many things, okay? And what I want you to see is in this story, there's going to be a couple main themes, but one of the main themes is compassion, right? What we're going to see is that Jesus cares about the physical needs of people, not just the spiritual needs of people. And so Jesus' followers, you and I, we need to care about the physical needs of people, not just their spiritual needs. By this time, it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place. Now, if you remember the video, I'm going to reference it so much, okay? You're going to be sick of it. That video, the reason that side was highlighted at one point is in Jesus' day, there were not towns over there. That last town that they would have crossed through would have been Bethsaida, which was a small town. This was like empty, arid place, not a lot of people around, okay? And then if you kept going south, you would have gotten to the Decapolis. So in between that whole left side, there's cities, people, solitary place. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to really, they'd have to really disperse and start walking to find a place. So they're like, listen, it's already late. This place is remote. Send the people home, okay? Send the people home. Send them to find some food somewhere. So what I want you to see is this happens to us. Most of us can diagnose the problem. Okay? Most of us are like, there are people who are hungry. There are moms who need help. There are pregnancies that are in crisis that need support. There are people who need shelter. Like, we can diagnose the problems, and then what we normally do is exactly what they do. I hope someone else takes care of it. Right? I hope someone else takes care of these kids who don't have parents. I hope someone else takes care of these kids who don't have any food to eat. I hope someone else takes care of these kids, right? These families who have kids with special needs that keep them from even being able to come to church because it's so much work. I hope someone else, it would be we hear about other people like, that's such a cool ministry. That's so cool. That's so neat. I'm so glad someone's doing something. Send them away. Make them not my responsibility. Make it so I don't have to look at them, right? For those of you who are old enough, you remember the Sarah McLachlan commercials, right? You would turn those things off as fast as you could, okay, before you started crying. But Jesus says, isn't this mean? Let's just stay here, right? This is comfortable. This feels good. Send them away. Jesus is not about comfort. He says, can you imagine, get inside the story, you're standing, picture the video, right? You're on the beach, there's 5,000, 10,000 people all spread out, and Jesus looks at you, and he said, you have diagnosed the problem accurately. There are 500 kids in foster care in Newcastle County. You help them. There are 1,300 people who are battling homelessness in Delaware. You help them. Is this, what was like a little heavy-handed? Sorry. He says, you give them something to eat. And he wasn't joking, right? They had just gotten back from ministering by themselves, healing people, seeing people get saved, baptizing people, right? Like, God was working in them. He was like, go ahead, guys, flex your muscles. Let's see it. And they're like, the problem is too big for me. Can you guys just see how this is like literally our lives? This is us. We see the problem. God's like, do something about it. And we're like, it's too big. We have two excuses. It's too big and we're too small. And they give both of them. That would take more than a half a year's wages. Are we to go spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? Like, this is too big for us, Jesus. The problem's too big for one person. And he says, okay, well, how much do you have? And they're like, not enough. Isn't that so? That's what we say to God. God, there's a problem. Do something about it. It's too big. Well, you can do something. I don't have enough. Right? Someone else. Someone else, someone else, someone else, someone else. How many loaves do you have? Go and see. I mean, at this point, I think he's laughing because he knows. When they found out, there were like 5 and 2 fish. Did it matter how many they had? It wasn't a magical number, right? They just needed to have something. See, your something plus God is enough. If you're willing to just say, okay, here's my something. Everybody's got something. Everybody's got some time. Everybody's got some money. I mean, you might not have both of those things. Everybody's got some talent. Everybody's got some margin in their life. Everybody's got some ability to pray. Like, what's your something? You give them something. Jesus is standing before us, before me. You give them something. What's your something? What can you give? What are you giving? What more could you give? And Jesus directed them all to sit down in groups on the green grass, and they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, and he took the loaves and fish, he looked up to heaven, he gave thanks, and he broke them, and then he gave them to his disciples. Didn't he? Jesus wasn't like, watch me, guys. You know, he just prayed for it. I think he gave them back the same 5 loaves and 2 fishes. I mean, that had to be the most awkward part, right? Because maybe when they gave him the food, they're like, I don't know, Jesus has done some pretty wild stuff. So he prays over it. He's like, there you go. Nothing's changed. It's like, Jesus, you need to pray again, right? Like, can you pray harder? Lay your hands on it, Jesus. Do some magic. This is the part that all of us want to know. How did it multiply? I mean, was it like rip off a piece, give it to someone, and it grew back? You know, and they do it again, it grows back, right? Did they, I don't know. They had baskets. Why did they have baskets? It's like, here's a basket, throw your half a loaf of bread, and they're like, look like such a fool. Walk up to the first group of 50, guys. I got a half a loaf of bread for you. There's 50 of you, right? I mean, maybe that's where it starts for you. Like, are you willing to be like, okay, I got a half a loaf of bread for these 500 people who are hungry, but it's something. It doesn't make sense to me. He gave it to his disciples. He also divided the 2 fish amongst them, which must have been gross. And they all ate, and they were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces and bread and fish, and the number of the men who had eaten was 5,000. And we're just going to get theological for a second, and then we're going to get practical. But I just want you to know that there's even more going on in this story, because almost always when you read the Bible, there's more going on than you think. This story, the disciples, the Jewish people that were there would have recognized this miracle. It's happened before. In an arid place, in a remote place, in a place where you're wandering without a shepherd in the wilderness, and God feeds you miraculously, right? The Israelites wandering in the desert, and they're fed by manna. They would know Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. He saw them as a people without a shepherd. He leads me beside still waters. He makes me lie down in green grass. Did you notice the green grass? What was it? This one right here? Yeah? He restores my soul. They would have thought about the time when Elisha multiplied the bread to feed 100 people. And someone greater. See, Jesus is the greater Moses. He is the greater David. He is the greater Elisha. If you want to get real nerdy, those are parts of the Old Testament that are significant. He is the fulfillment of the law, the writings, and the prophets. Can I get an amen from someone who's a Bible nerd? Bible nerds unite. That's big stuff right there. That is like real cool, right? And it's also a foreshadowing of the future. If you read in Revelation, it talks about there will be the wedding banquet, the feast at the end time when we eat this marvelous feast. There's more than enough for everyone, and no one is hungry anymore. No one is hungry or homeless or familyless. But it's also a message for the present. And the message for the present is that God cares about the physical needs of people. Jesus saw them and had compassion on them, and he met their physical needs, and he said, disciples do the same. Followers of Jesus, we're called to meet the physical needs of people, not just their spiritual needs. The church is not just a place for people to hear about Jesus and get saved. The church is a force on earth, is bringing the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven, practically in the lives of people who are hurting. So, quick 3 thoughts. Don't let the large size of the problem keep you from doing something. Don't let the large size of the problem keep you from doing something. Don't let the small size of your resources keep you from doing something. Can we just ignore those 2 things? And instead, can we do something? Just something. God can do more with your something than you can. So what is your something? What is your something? Oh, those were the fill in the blanks, and I just blew through them. Did you guys get them? Oh, okay. Sorry. I should have talked slower. Don't. So, yeah. All right. What is your something? And now I'm so excited. We're going to do something else different today. Right? You can tell when I get ADD during the week and I start to get a little bored with the routine. We just do new stuff like videos. And I want to welcome my good friend Christine up to the stage. We're going to have a little talk with Christine. Give her a round of applause. Hey, sound team, is this microphone going to work now? Okay. This is for you. How are you doing? I brought chairs from my house. They look nice. Oh, I need
Oh, hello. There we go. Oh, no, there we are.
They were joking when they said
Yeah.
it was going to work. Okay. Sorry, I forgot that I need to have my questions. Here we are. Okay, so Christine is one of the elders in our church. We call them the pastoral leadership team. She and her husband, Josh, run the small group ministry of our church. They lead 17 small groups out of their own house. They've raised amazing children. And Christine and I have been friends since we were 14 years old. Let's go. And how many times are we going to cry during this talk? Probably 10. It's still not working. They don't like her. Do you want me to just get a wired? Okay. Hold on, we'll get one. Well, see, this is just how things go sometimes. No, it's okay. We got one. This is how problems go. You just got to be patient, like I always am. Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
I'll take this from you. All right. Does that one work?
Hello, yes. All right. I think we're good.
Okay. So I asked Christine to come up because I have known Christine her whole life, and I can't, well, okay, that's not true, but most of it. The years that mattered.
Good majority of it.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, I remember being a teenager and hearing you talk about, I'm going to make you cry right now. Yep. Here it comes. I remember you talking about how you had this picture from God that you were going to own a place or start a place for kids who didn't have families. And you didn't know how it was going to happen. And we were young, and we were like, yeah. Like, somehow you're going to have to buy a building and and I was praying about it this morning, and I was thinking, it came true. Like, you didn't get a building where you're housing kids, but like you built an infrastructure. Like Fosterwell is literally creating places where kids have healthy homes. More than you could fit. Oh, all right. More than you could fit in a building.
Sure.
Like God's picture, it's so interesting. Like God's picture was different than you thought it was going to be. But like, it's so exciting for me, and it makes me so proud of Christine to see, like, she had this thing. It was too big for you, right?
Still is.
And your abilities were too small.
Absolutely.
And yet you say, here, I'll just do something. I'll give it to God. So that's why I want to interview Christine today. Okay, so tell us some about how God started to put this issue on your heart.
Like Christian said, you know, it really did start when I was a teenager. I just had a heart for vulnerable kids, just who doesn't have what they need. And obviously, I believe that God put that there, not just because I'm a nice person, but, and I wasn't sure, you know, how that was going to happen. And like Christian mentioned also, I was actually 20, so a little bit older than a teenager. When I first had that initial kind of like picture or vision from God of building, I knew I was going to build something. I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but primarily I was seeing, it was actually after a church service, I just felt like it was so clear in my heart, like, man, I have so much. Like, I have a family. I have a church. I have people who care about me. The things, the reason that I'm able to, feel like I can thrive is because of, like, people, the connections in my life, and thinking about all the people who don't have that. And it was just this really simple thought from God of, like, there's a way to connect people in the church who want to help with people who need the help. And you're going to build something that will make that happen.
And I would just say, like, those of you who are in the room who are, like, younger, teenagers, young adults, like, sometimes I think another excuse, the problem's too big, I don't have enough, is another one is I'm too young. And, like, I just want to point out, like, the thing that you're doing with your life for God started when you were young. The thing I'm doing with my life started when I was young. Like, oftentimes, God does give you a picture, an idea when you're a teenager, and you have to, like, foster that well. You have to nurture it. So, okay. Okay, I'm sure it felt too big for you to do something about the problem. So how did you overcome that feeling of it just being too big for you?
I waited about 20 years. Step number 1. I did I don't know. There's so many different, I don't know. I struggled with what to say about this. I think vaguely I had to start with just believing that what was in my heart was actually from God. So I had to like acknowledge it. You know how many thoughts you get? You know how many ideas you have, or you know, good intentions or whatever it is, and you just move along, right? At 20, I could have just dismissed that, you know, as, I don't know, just some grandiose idea, you know, but I chose to believe that God had, like, put that in me. And so then throughout those 20 years, I kept bringing it back to God. I kept being like, am I supposed to be doing something about this? You know, and so I'm not going to get into all the things that I feel like he had me do to, like, get me to the point where I could do it, but they were there. And I feel like, too, once I did feel like God said, hey, it's time, there was that, like, moment of, hey, it's time. I, again, had to believe that he was calling me to do it, and I had to then take action. And so then I started praying. So then I started asking him, God, who are you asking, like, who do you want me to ask to join me? So I couldn't just do it by myself. I was going to have to build a board. I was going to have to bring other people in. And so I started talking to people, and that was scary, you know, being like, hey, I want to do this. Do you want to help? You know, so that was, I mean, like, the believing it and the praying and then the asking people to help me, I would say, like, in the beginning were, like, the two big things.
So you might have already said this, but the next thing I was going to ask was, what was, like, your loaves and fishes? Like, what was the, like, I think we were on the phone and you said, everybody has something. What's your something? So I stole it from her, just so you know. But, like, what was your something that you just could start with?
I feel like it was, honestly, I was just willing. Like, I am not the smartest I'm not naturally good at speaking or organizing things. I feel like I'm willing.
Yeah. Can we go off script a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. How did it start? Like, I know what Foster Well does now. Is that how, like, I feel like it's changed over time, some. Like, when you started, what was the first thing that you were like, let's do this?
So I started with specifically wanting to provide additional support to like traditional foster families. So people who are fostering, there's such a small percentage of people who are doing the work of foster care. And then there's the other 99% of us who aren't doing foster care but could do something. So the idea was, okay, there's foster families who are kind of drowning in the weight of, what the trauma that children have been through and the caring for them, and they're burning out. I was learning that like over half of foster parents quit within the first year due to a lack of support. And so it was this idea of like, well, what about all the, in this room, what about all the rest of us? Like, what could we do? What part could we play to bring a meal, to pass along our 3T clothes, to bring a dresser, that sort of thing. So it was very specifically around, let's get everybody else who's not doing foster care to play a part.
I think that's so cool because I feel like that's the first time I had ever heard that idea. Like, that feels like a real God idea to me. Like, you're willing, and then, because I've always just felt like, well, the only way to really help is to be a foster family.
Right.
And then if you don't feel led to do that, it's not your problem.
Right.
And you found a way to get us.
I did. It is great because so many people, and there are, some foster and adoptive parents in the room, and you've probably heard from people, wow, that's so amazing, I could never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Foster Well is your thing to pull out of your back pocket to say, I know it's hard, not everybody's called to foster and adopt, not everybody can do it, honestly, not everybody should do it, but hey, you could do something. Like you could share something that you have. Do you have an extra set of sheets that you're not using anymore? This child needs sheets. Do you have a dresser sitting in your garage? They need a dresser, so.
And like when you started, like, okay, so you have this idea, you're like, I'm going to go support families who have kids. What'd you do? I don't know, I would just go out and be like, start calling people. Hey, are you a foster family? Hey, are you? I mean, what did you do?
Yeah, so I had to start putting myself out there of saying, so I started, God led me to somebody who actually came to our church, who was just looking for churches at the time, who was a foster family. She ended up being on my board, still is. And she was fostering through a specific agency. And so I was like, let's talk to your agency. Let's find out what the need is. How can we help? And so then through talking to them, they were like, yeah, there's funding for specific areas of need for the children, usually at some point, but there's not anything in place to support the family as a whole when they bring in children to their home.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an aha moment.
Yeah, and
for
so
you.
then they're like, yes, absolutely, we would love to be able to say, hey, here's some volunteers who want to bring you a meal, or hey, to broaden someone's support network. So some foster families, maybe they are really connected and they have a lot of family or friends and they have that naturally, but not everybody has that support that's gonna, really wrap around them and consistently bring support.
Yeah. And a lot of people are getting over their head. They're like,
Right.
This sounds like a good idea.
Right.
And then when they call you, they're like, hey, we're bringing over an infant tonight.
Right, right, and they don't have anything for a baby.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think one of the reasons I wanted us to hear this story is that, let's keep remembering the loaves and the fishes, and we see the need. The need's easy to see. And then we're like, oh, man, I hope someone does something about this, right? When they're like, Jesus, send them away so they can go find help. And Jesus says, you do something about it. You feed them. What is your something? And they're like, it's too big, God. I don't have it, and we don't have enough, right? It's too big, I'm too small. And he's like, well, what do you have? So What do you have? Okay, I'm willing. Like that's not a lot, if we're honest, right? It's not like she's sitting here and she's like, well, I did 10 years of research, or I had worked in the foster care system for 10 years. Like, now you did get a degree, and
I
so
did.
like there is like also things you can do. So you were like, I want to help people. I know that in general. You got a social worker degree and did that for a little while, but that wasn't like really totally in the same, it's in the same lane, but it wasn't hitting the same target. And then, right, so you bring your willingness and you bring your willingness and you're praying and you're talking to people and you're like, it's like a hunt. And then all of a sudden you find that. It's like, so Youth with a Mission, if you've heard of that, it's a missionary organization. And they have a term that I love. And they talk about when you go into a new area, you look for the people of peace. And what they mean by that, and it's a biblical term referencing some story in the Bible, but like they're like, God will lead you to someone who knows people that you need to know. And so like, I forget her name. I don't know if you want to talk about her, but
Christina?
yeah. So Christina was like a person of peace for you that led you into an area. And you have multiples. Like you could tell a lot of stories about like, well, then a year later I met this person. But like it didn't start where it is now, right? You start with your 5 loaves and 2 fishes. You're like, okay, I'm willing and I'm going to just chase down every lead. Because you probably have also chased down leads that didn't lead anywhere, right?
Lots of them.
Yes. So if you just were like, well, I'm going to wait till God drops it on my lap, right? I think it's interesting that God gave the food back to the disciples and they fed them. So they needed to go do the work. Like we need to say it's not just up to God, right? And God's involved, and I think he takes what we give him and he multiplies it, right? But there's effort, and you just, yeah. Okay. Stories. Can you tell us a recent story of how, giving God your something has resulted in like a changed life?
Yeah. So just to go from just strictly traditional foster families, once we were in that space and doing that, then we discovered, like in the statistic that Christian showed, yes, there's a little under 500 kids in foster care, but there's thousands and thousands of kids who would be in traditional foster care if their grandparents or aunts or somebody who knew them, teachers, neighbors, hadn't stepped in to care for them. So it's like foster care, but they know them. And so once we got into that space, I learned about this, which is kinship care. And these families just have even greater financial need because most of them are, the majority that we help are single grandmothers who are on a fixed income. And so that's like, so just to broaden where we're going with this. And then also, there's this whole spectrum of like before, during, and after foster care. So before is like trying to support, families so that foster care isn't needed, and then what we've already talked about. And then after can also be like reunifying. So there's like the goal of foster care is to reunify parents with their children, to give them the ability to parent their own children. We want to support, God cares about families. He wants kids with their parents if it's possible. And so that leads me to recently, we got connected with a mom who is reunifying. Her kids have been in foster care, and they're slowly starting to reunify. One girl has started, and we were reached out to by Community Legal Aid, their lawyer, and so it's really great. So this need goes out through our system called Care Portal, and it's in Wilmington. So a couple churches in Wilmington respond to it. Yes, we can bring the beds. Yes, we can bring the bedding. We can bring the dressers, the lamps, the whatever. And so they've connected with her. And again, it can kind of feel small, like, what's a dresser, or like, what's a bed? But what it means, like, for this mom who has failed in so many ways, feels like, like everything's against her, to have people specifically, I feel like, in the church who are stepping into her world, who are stepping into the lives of her children to say, like, what you're doing matters, like, we're here for you, like, we're encouraging you, it's just amazing. And like hearing from the volunteers who are, connecting with her, and just, she's so, like just how sweet she is, and like just how amazing it is to like get to meet, they got to meet the one daughter who was just started. And so ultimately, big picture, them stepping in with these practical needs and making her feel seen and loved is they now get to play a part in that family's restoration. So.
Yeah. Right, so like changed hearts, right? Like if he had compassion, changed hearts leads to changed actions, and those lead to changed lives, right? Like when we follow that through, Christine saying, I'm willing, Christine saying, here's my something, 7, 8 years ago, yeah? Right, like, and that's just one story. And also, I want to say, like, the person who brought the bed saying, well, here's my something, and the person who brought the dresser saying, well, here's my something. And I could tell you so many stories about this church and all of you sitting in here and the ways that you do these things. But it matters. So we're like running out of time, but if you can hold yourself together a little bit longer, can you, your last thing here, can you tell us, just if you want to just for a second, your passion, just talk about like how Jesus cares for people's practical needs, not just their spiritual needs.
Yeah, I mean, you already talked about it. I mean, as you were teaching, I'm like, yeah, that's
Sorry.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Can I actually say though,
Yeah.
I feel like this was on my heart that it's so easy to compare. I feel like our comparison to each other keeps us from doing something. And so we look at the foster or adoptive family of 8, and we are like, wow, that's so amazing. I could never do that. And we like inch our way back away from it. Or, whatever it is, maybe it's not in the foster care or, kinship care space, whatever it is. I don't know, I feel like there's this human thing in us to be like, wow, they're so amazing, I could never do that. And I just feel like we can't compare ourselves to each other.
Yeah.
I want to stop doing what I'm doing so many times, not because I don't think it's valuable, but because I'm always like, somebody else could be doing it better. I tried. I tried to hold myself together.
We got there.
And I want to be vulnerable with you guys. Obviously, I just am anyway. I can't help it. That it's not a matter of, like, if you have something to do. We take ourselves out of the picture all the time. We think, I'm messing up as a mom, like, to my own kids. There's no way I could, like, help with somebody else's, or I'm not managing my money well. I feel like I don't have enough money for ourselves. I don't know how to share my money. Can I just tell you, we can't listen to those lies. I mean, you can, but it will take you out of the picture. It will sideline you. It will, take away your opportunity to be blessed by blessing other people. It just will. And so let's stop elevating people we think are so amazing, or wow, I can't believe they're doing that, or she started this and he's doing that. We got to stop doing that, and we got to do what Christian's talking about and say, God, what is my something? Who am I? Where am I in my life? What do you have for me to give, and what do you have for me to share with other people?
Yeah. Just watching Christine and talking, and I just feel like, here, I'm going to get on a soapbox. Christianity, the reason we planted the church, all those things, is not to put butts in seats and you come listen to an hour and a half, and then you go and maybe are a moral person, right? My hope is it's something so much more than that. And I know Christine, and that's why she said, I'm just willing. I don't know if you heard it, and she almost cried just saying that, because what it comes down to is you love Jesus, and you're yes, those who will follow me will take up their cross, deny themselves, and follow me. Jesus calls you and I to a life of following him, and it's gonna cost. It's going to cost you your insecurity. It's going to,
Yes.
right? It's going to cost you putting yourself out there, even though you're not sure, over and over and over again. It's going to cost you. And like, I want to invite you, if you're a Christian and you know, in name only, and you have never embraced like the fullness of like when I think about my life, it is like, okay, my life is, I'm living, like Paul says, I've crucified myself. It is no longer I who live, it is Christ who lives within me. I live by faith in the Son of God. Like my life, Mandy's life, right, Christine's life, and I'm not like, again, this isn't elevating, this is lowering, this is like humbling, this is like saying, I just want to serve God and be used by him. Like David says, I would rather be a doorkeeper in your fold than, I can't remember the rest of it, something of 1,000 somethings elsewhere. It used to be a song, right? Like,
Spend one day. Yeah. Spend one day, or 1,000 others.
okay. She's telling me what to do. So, like I just want my life to matter in the kingdom of God. And so also just like there's this group of teenagers sitting here, I'm just looking at you guys, like, and there's some young adults out there, like, it starts now. It starts now. Like, make that commitment. And for adults, everyone else in here, like, it also starts now. Like, if you haven't, like you may, if you're honest, you say, like, I've been just kind of sailing through my Christianity for 20 years. Like, maybe today is the day to be like, all right, what do you want, God? Like, what would it look like? And I'm not saying, like, you got to quit your job and move to Africa, right? I'm just saying, like, what is your something that you can give to make it? I don't know. That soapbox kind of fell apart as I stood on it. But I think you got what I meant, hopefully. I do want to end with something, but you can go.
Great.
So let's give Christine a round of applause. Worship team, you can come up. And so I want to say two things. First is, you don't have to start a nonprofit. Okay? Like, that is an example. And I feel like it's a good one to talk about, but like, that's not everyone's call. Some of you need to have, jobs in government. You need to have jobs in the business world. You need to be stay-at-home parents. Like, you need to do what God's called you to do. And what is your something? It's not or. Okay? And so 4 levels of action if you want to get practical. And again, if you want to use the notes, there's a reflection question at the end. At the very least, like, in the moment help. Like, I was with Eden at a soccer thing, and we had a break between games. And we were in Wilmington, and we went to this Royal Farms that I've been told not to go to. But I really needed gas. So I went to Royal Farms to get gas, and a man approached me, and he was old, walking with a crane. A crane. He was so strong. Or was it the bird? There's a lot of ways we could go with that. He was walking with a crane. I was like, this Royal Farms is crazy. I thought they just had the world's best chicken. Didn't. Okay. So anyway, and he comes up to me. So, like, as a parent with your kids, you're like, okay, well, danger. I was pretty sure I could take him. But, he said he needed money to stay the night in a hotel. And it was one of those 5-degree nights. What am I going to do? So, like, I'm like, okay, let me get gas. I'll meet you. I went into Royal Farms. And even in this, like, I did the whole ATM. And it's like, in my head, I was like, I'm going to give him 50. And it made you do the stupid choice between 40 and 60. And I looked at that screen for a while. I'm ashamed to admit. I was like, I don't want to give him 60. Isn't that? So I gave him 60. Just in the moment, help. Like, little things that come along your path, like, move of compassion, say yes to God in the moment. And then, it kind of like, the next thing is like, you're looking for needs instead of just like, they're coming at you. Like, you're like signing up to be on Foster Wells thing so that when a care portal request comes through, or you're signing up to be on 170B's thing, and you're like, I'm going to go once a month, right? Oh, wait, that's the next one, planned and committed regular help. Sorry. When the need arises, it's more like when you hear about stuff, right? And you get involved. You hear about it on Sunday morning. There's an announcement. A friend tells you. A friend needs help moving, things like that. Planned and committed regular help would be what I just said. Signing up. what we do at City Light, we don't plan tons of like church-sponsored outreach because we want to partner with nonprofits who are doing it 365 days a year. That's our vision. It's our plan. It's been working for us so far. So our goal isn't like, let's start our own ministry to people who are battling homelessness. It's like, let's partner. So we have 3 that we really partner with. Can I just say, there's more sitting in this room. There's more ministry ideas that need to be born out of City Light. 2 of the 3 we partner with came out of City Light. There's more in this room that you need to say, I have a vision, I have a passion, and it is time for you to start something, that other people will come around. But right now, get involved in one of these 3, or get involved in another one that's not involved in our church, right? Like there's a church that does the Dream Center. I don't remember the name of the church, but the Dream Center in Delaware is an incredible ministry. Like there are things to do. Like get involved with a Celebrate Recovery. Like get involved in ways that you can give back. And then the last one is large-scale change and reformation. Here's the deal. As the church, I really believe we're supposed to bring change. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if after 20 years of City Light being in existence, like the foster care system was better because of City Light and the people in City Light and the other churches that right? Like, as a church globally, we're supposed to make the world, right, like look more like Jesus. We're supposed to show the world Jesus. So 4 levels of action. We can all do something. What is your something? What is your something that you can give?